Hello, greetings, and welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. Today, Conversation with Tony Mobley is simulcast on both YouTube and LinkedIn Live. Welcome, radio listeners in Cincinnati, Ohio, on Z98. You can hear us on the radio by going to z98fm.com. On Conversation with Tony Mobley today, I am talking with Mr. Lee Michaels of iRadio Coach. This is episode 92. That's right, episode 92 of Conversation with Tony Mobley. Thanks to everyone for being a part of the journey. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for all of your hard work. You can go to conversationwithTonyMobley.com. There, courtesy of Alex Lindsay and 090, you can participate in the Mukana chat. Why do I want you to go to the Mukana chat? Well, there you can ask your questions. And not only can you ask your questions, those questions can be voted up and down. So please go to the website, conversationwithTonyMobley.com, and there you can register, ask your questions, and those questions can be voted up and down. And also you can ask your questions in YouTube, but we guarantee that your question will be seen in Mukana. Thank you so much. And now, the very first question, and welcome Mr. Lee Michaels. Who is Lee Michaels?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I've always wanted to do that because I interviewed Prince on his first promotional tour, and he did that to me live on the radio in Charlotte, North Carolina. I interviewed him for about a half hour, and I got yes and no answers out of him. It was the worst interview I ever had. So I won't do that to you, Tony.
I appreciate it.
Who is Lee Michaels? That's a good question. I wonder sometimes the same thing. Lee Michaels is a radio guy from head to toe. Since I was 12 years old, I had the love and the passion for radio. My mom had a RCA radio that sat on the kitchen counter, and I was always fascinated by these voices and songs coming out of that radio. And I worked in a television repair shop while in late junior high school or middle school, as they call it today, in high school. And I learned how to repair radios and televisions. So I've got a little technical background from that. And then at the age of 15, I began to get inside of a radio station to get my start back in 1965. And from there, I worked at a Pops radio station in Virginia, in Norfolk, WNOR. That was kind of my first real on-the-air job. And then I went to St. Louis, KATZ. Then I got out of radio for a brief period in 1975. Went down to Atlanta, worked for Mercury Records. For 6 months, I didn't like the record promotion business. Then after being on tour with the Ohio Players and seeing them get destroyed by Larry Graham and Graham Central Station on stage, I was back in Atlanta, and I got a call from a guy that was programming a radio station in New York City, who I'd been in competition with in St. Louis,
Oh, wow.
Al Casey. Al Casey was a program director there in New York at a station called 99X. And he offered me a job to come to New York. So I went, took the job. Boom. That was on a Friday night. He called me. And what's funny, I was sitting in the bathtub being frustrated because I hated the job that I was doing. And I got this phone call. I'm sitting there talking to Al. He says, "Hey, dude, you want to come to New York and rock and roll on the radio?" I said, "Hell yeah, absolutely." He says, "Okay, I'm going to send you a ticket. Can you be here on Monday? I said, I'll be there. So he flew me out to New York. I interviewed. They gave me the job. And I worked on this top 40 radio station called 99X in New York. And then I went from there back San Francisco, KDIA. And then I could tell you the step by step, but I worked in St. Louis, well, starting out in Norfolk, St. Louis, New York, Atlanta, New York, San Francisco, LA, back to St. Louis. I worked in St. Louis 3 times, worked in San Francisco twice, LA 3 times, twice in New York, Atlanta doing the record promotions, Houston, Texas, and I worked in all of those cities. Then I consulted about 16 radio stations in different markets around the country. So I traveled a lot. I had the most fun beyond my wildest dreams, the kind of fun and experience that I got in 50 years of radio. It was just the best job in the world. And I look forward to it every day because I had a love and passion for it, not because of the money, not because of anything else other than the love that I had for it. And 50 years into it, I said, this is not fun anymore. And I stopped taking jobs. I said, I've done everything that I could beyond what I dreamed about. I never thought at the age of 12 to 15 years old, I'd ever work in New York or Chicago, LA or San Francisco, St. Louis for that matter. But I got a chance to work in all those markets in Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and so on and so on. So it was just a blast. I mean, just a load of fun. And then when I had success at those various radio stations, both as an on-air talent, the first 30 years, and then 20 years in management and programming, I began to win all of these awards and it was just unbelievable.
Amazing.
This little skinny kid from Norfolk, Virginia, to have that kind of ride, it was like the best. I mean, it was just a load of fun.
I'm going to tell you something that's real funny. Now that you mention it, I was actually born in Norfolk, Virginia.
Really?
Yes.
No kidding.
Norfolk General Hospital.
Well, I was born in Community Hospital, and it closed up years later. But I know Norfolk General very well. That's where my mother and my sisters and aunts and uncles all went to that hospital. I know it well.
Yeah, amazing. I want to get back to some of the amazing people that you've interviewed. Can you talk more about that? Or maybe should I ask you, who haven't you interviewed?
Very few. I would say that my favorites, Michael Jackson, Luther Vandross, Aretha Franklin, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, Eli Stubbs from the Four Tops, Marvin Gaye. Let's see some of the other females. LaToya Jackson.
My wife would ask Gladys Knight.
Yes, I was in love with Gladys Knight. I would have married her like that. Tom Joyner and I used to fight over who loved her the most. Okay. I'll tell you a funny story about Gladys Knight. She performed at the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis, Missouri. And I want to say this was 73 or 74. It was after she had Neither One of Us Want to Be the First to Say. And I had this, I loved her. So I came up with the promotion when, we were promoting the show. And I said, I'm going to crown her Queen of Soul. Now, that crown belonged to Aretha Franklin.
Right.
I said I was going to take that crown and give it to Gladys Knight. So I went out and I had a jeweler make this crown with diamonds in it and everything. Not real diamonds, but costume. And
Hmm.
I got 2 dozens of roses on a red pillow. And when she came out, she didn't know anything about this. They came out on stage and I ran out there and interrupted the show and broke down on one knee and gave her this crown and these flowers. And she looked at me and said, "Boy, are you crazy?" I see, crazy about you, Gladys. So, I mean, I did those kind of wild things in radio. And that's what radio was about back in those days. It was like in the streets doing, creative things, I like to say, that radio doesn't do anymore. We created events on the radio. I'll tell you another interesting story. The Isley Brothers played in St. Louis, same auditorium, and they were out there. This was during the time when they had, it was after Do Your Thing. This was in the mid 70s again. So they were out there on stage, and Rudolph, one of the Isley Brothers, he had these diamond rings on and a diamond bracelet and a diamond watch, and he was out there doing his thing. And the watch came off of his arm and it went into the crowd.
Oh my goodness.
And whoever got it didn't give it back. I went on the air the next day, Tony, and I went through this whole thing. I said, "Listen, the Isley Brothers performed for you last night, and Rudolph lost his watch. And I know that you, the people of St. Louis, are honorable people, and I want whoever has that watch, I want you to give it back." I said, "Maybe a little money for you, a little reward." I said, "But bring it to the radio station, leave it with the receptionist. We don't need to know your name, nothing about you, and I want to get it back to him because St. Louis is that kind of town." And within a
Mm.
half hour, the watch was there. The
All right.
power of radio. You don't hear and see things like that anymore on the radio. If a family lost their home in a fire, we went on the air and made sure that those people were taken care of, involved with the community. You don't hear that anymore. See, I took it for real when the FCC says you are being licensed to serve the community. That's what we did. We served the community.
What? How do we get back to that? And by that I mean
Yeah.
serving the community.
Well, I don't know that we ever will because the people that own the radio stations today don't have that commitment. You no longer really have to serve the community. You used to have a certain number of hours of news, public affairs programming, public service announcements. You don't have to do any of that now. Zero. That was deregulated under Reagan, and every president, every FCC commissioner since then has done nothing to change it. So with the iHearts and the other major companies around the country, they're in it for the bottom line. And the reason they got into it is because radio 20, 30 years ago, if you were running your radio station well, you could do 40, 50, and sometimes 60% margins of profit. No other industry could you find an investor or something to invest in that had those kind of margins. Even in the automotive industry, if they got 5%, they're jumping up and down. So these investment bankers, these greedy people jumped into the business. They drove the prices of radio up into the millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for one radio station. And it made it impossible for them to operate at a profit. They bought into these radio stations because they thought these annual increases would continue at 10, 15, 20%. Impossible. I begged some of the companies I work for not to do it. One in particular had to sell a radio station. They paid over $400 million. One FM station, 4 or 5 years later, they sold it for 165.
Wow.
Inflated. You can't make it work. to service the debt on a $400 million station, you got to do $50 million in gross revenue. Very few. I think I know of one radio station has done that kind of money, and I think they did it 1 year. So it's impossible. Can't do it.
Wow.
That's why
So,
iHeartRadio filed bankruptcy and flushed $11 billion down the drain. And they're still not making a profit. So,
wow.
yeah, that's real.
How did you get started with your company?
Which company? I've owned several.
iCoach.
Okay,
iRadio
iRadio
Coach.
Coach. Well, it started when I started consulting. At first, it was Lee Michaels Inc., and then I changed it to iRadio Coach because I felt I was more of a radio coach than just a consultant. So when I started my consulting company, and I called it Lee Michaels Inc., and then it evolved into being iRadio Coach, and that was about the time when streaming and podcasting came into play, and I began to get a lot of clients that wanted to know how to podcast, how to set up live streaming, or to set up an internet radio station. So that was my new interest, new excitement, new fun, because I went into the what I call the wild, wild west, the new horizon, the future of broadcast. And I had it in my gut. I did our first broadcast 79, 79, 78, no, it's 78 or 79, streaming on the internet. Microsoft gave us a server. It's just about the time when Windows Media Server came out. They sent us a compact server and the software installed because we were on Real Audio, and Real Audio was very expensive. So we got this free box, the free software. We started streaming on that. During that time, so it was before 78, 79, everybody was on a dial-up modem. 300 baud, 1200 baud, 2400 baud, and it went on 4800 and on up to ISDN. We had live streaming on one of the first flip phones that had internet access. We were testing it out. I went into a grocery store. My partner, Sal, in Chicago, was at the control room, and we kept getting it. It was intermittent. And I was in this in this grocery store, and I was getting it I had it for like 10 minutes. I heard 2 songs back to back. I'm like, we figured it out. We got it working.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
So before
Amazing.
anybody was doing it, we had it figured out. We just didn't have any money to take it to the next level. So that was my first real, oh, wow moment in streaming.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to take a back step to you from your early comments. My wife came in the room, and I want to ask this question while she's in the room. So when you gave Gladys Knight the crown and the roses, did you get any feedback from Aretha?
Never directly, but the Aretha Franklin fans resented what I did. But I never got a call or anything from Aretha about it. And I met Aretha numerous times. She's a great cook too. So is Gladys, and so is Patti LaBelle. Great cooks. You want to get your grub on? Go visit one of them at home. I guarantee you'll be fat and happy. Anita Baker, I interviewed. What's it? I'll think of some other big names as well. Whitney Houston. Not only did I get a chance to interview her, she sang "Happy Birthday" to me at a club in Chicago, and I didn't know it was going to happen. So you're talking about A happy man. This is early on in her career, but she sang happy birthday to me. Yeah,
That's absolutely amazing.
yeah.
Thank you.
That
Thank you
was that was
so
a
much for
highlight.
sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, that was
Whitney
fun.
Houston singing you happy
Yep,
birthday.
yep,
Wow.
yep.
Please talk about your latest professional project.
Well, I'm in the transportation business right now. I started a company about 4 years ago here in Los Angeles. It's called Elite Cars USA, and it's a black car service. We provide quality first class service to people here in the LA area. We service practically all of California, except we haven't been up to Sacramento, but we take people as far as San Francisco, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Arizona. I've had one ride to a little town. I can't even remember the name of it, but it's east of Dallas. It was a 2 day ride. Took a young guy, 21 years old, and his dog that shed more hair in my car than I could. It was so much hair, Tony. I could have made a wig out of this hair that was all over the place. But we took him where he needed to go, and it was a fun trip too. It was interesting. He had quite a story as well.
How did the pandemic affect your business?
It For 9 months I didn't have not one ride. So from about
Mm.
middle of June of 2020, no, mid May, nope, March, middle of March for 9 months thereafter, not one ride. That's how devastating it was. And I thought I was going to have to fold the company because I wasn't sure that we would ever rebound. And we're still about 35% down from pre-COVID. My desire was by 2021, I'd be in the top 10 cities in America. That's why I named the company Elite Cars USA, because I wanted to spread it nationwide. Eventually be in the top 50 of the largest cities in America. We haven't gotten there yet, but I'm hoping that things will continue to get better, that we can then spread our tentacles out and get into some of the other markets.
That's fantastic. What are the markets that you're serving right now?
Just Los Angeles is our base, but we cover all of the cities in Southern California. Riverside County. We go over into the Valley. We go down to Long Beach and San Diego. I mean, it's just you never know where the next call is going to come from.
And your clients are primarily celebrities?
A lot executives and just people who want that first class treatment that can afford the fees. I mean, we're not like Uber, where you go for $5 or $10. That's not our clientele. We pick up people, give them curbside service, and if you need it, we'll come into the airport and help you with your bags from the carousel, put them on a cart, take them out to the car, and escort you to the car, whatever your request is. So, and
Okay.
then some of our clients have certain things that they would like to have in the car, certain types of water or beverages or snacks, or, I have customers that I got one customer that will only drink water out of a glass bottle, not plastic. So
Hmm.
I have a profile on each client, our regular clients. So they don't have to ask but one time for what it is they would like to have. Then every time we pick them up, it's there. Cell
That's
phone
fantastic.
charges. We sanitize the car after every ride. We think about all the little intricate details. Our drivers are suited up. You'll never see us in jeans and t-shirts and flip-flops like some of the Uber and Lyft drivers. And that's fine. They don't make the kind of money that require them to dress appropriately. But it's a professional approach that we have.
That's fantastic. Um, you want to do a shout out to your business?
A shameless plug.
Sure.
Okay, go to elitecarsusa.com. And even if you're not in LA, we have affiliates all over the world. So if you're in New York City or Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever you are, and you need a ride to the airport from Atlanta, going to the Atlanta airport, we can hook you up. We can do that because we have affiliates there that we can contact and say, go pick Tony up at his home. This is the address. This is the time that he needs to be picked up. He's take him to the airport. He's going to be flying Delta Airlines. Here's the the flight number. And this is what he needs. He needs a sedan. It's only going to be him. He's got 2 pieces of luggage. And make sure you got some water and some peppermint candy because that's what he likes. And boom, it'll be done.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
We
This
supply baby seats, car seats for kids and toddlers. We had a ride today. They needed 2 seats, a booster and a toddler seat. We provide that. You don't have to schlep your own car seats around. And those are sanitized after each use.
that's first class, Lee. So
Has to be.
congratulations and thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. I'm going to ask you about I, I took notice of you being on Facebook. I want to say it was last year or maybe the year before. You and a group
Hmm.
of guys having a conversation. So I wanted
Hmm.
to know if you wanted to share anything of that Facebook community conversation that you were having. And it was
Sure.
you tell me what day it was. It was weekly. Is that correct?
Yes, it was Wednesdays at what was it 6 p.m. West Coast time, and it was 6 guys. All of us have a radio background, and we primarily would home in on politics and current events. And I got too busy to make that every week. And then some of the other guys got to be. We were pretty faithful during COVID because nothing was going on. So
Right.
after COVID began to step up, Mike Love got busy again with his business. He's in syndication and he's in the transportation business as well. And some of the other guys had to move on to do different things. But we still have the network, and we encourage people who want to have their own live video and or audio stream. We can provide that platform for you. And so yeah, that was a lot of fun. We're just beginning to grow. We streamed on Facebook on several different Facebook channels, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
Okay. So you were offering a service for people that needed to stream?
Sure, we can provide that.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
right
So
now.
okay, give another shout out.
Okay, that's called streetnewsnow.com. And there's a link on that website that you can click on that, put in your information, what type of show you want to do, when you want to do it, a little bit of your background. I'll contact you and make arrangements to get you on the network.
Fantastic. And we
Yep.
want to let everyone know that this is a good time to ask Lee Michael some great questions if you would like to via Mukana or YouTube. And this is, you will still have time and you can ask some questions of Mr. Lee Michaels. My next question is, can you talk about the importance of diversity in technology?
Yeah, that's very important. I encourage anyone who is interested in the technical world, whether it's audio, video, editing, the background, the foreground, whether you're on mic, on camera, follow your passion, follow your dream, and don't let anything or anybody get in the way. If I can do it, I didn't come from a rich family. My mother and father were humble people that had regular jobs, and they encouraged me to, what is it that you love? Find that passion and go for it. The diversity is a lot better today than what it was when I started in 1965. Today, It's tougher to get into radio and television, commercial radio and television. There are fewer and fewer opportunities. But what you and I are doing right now, anybody can do from anywhere. I'm doing it from my car right now. You're at home. You can do it from anywhere in the world. You can own it. You don't have to wait for somebody to give you an opportunity. Create your own opportunity. Same thing in the recording business. Many of the top artists that are out there today were discovered on YouTube or some of the other social media networks. You don't need a record label anymore. You can be your own label. If you've got the talent, the technical wherewithal, and listen, you can set up a studio at home for a couple grand or less. Whatever you have, if you only have an iPhone or an Android phone, use that to start. Don't let anything get in your way. Go for it. That nice microphone you have there, nice mic. I have a bunch of mics. I'm a mic collector. Along with anything that's in the electronic mode, I collect stuff. I like quality stuff. But you don't have to have a $400 or $500 mic or $1,000 mic. I got a couple of those. You can have a $200 mic, a $99 mic. That Rode Pod mic, very nice mic for $99. $100. And there are mics out there that sound. I got a mic in my collection that I paid $19 on sale. It was normally $49. Got it at Guitar Center. And with the right EQ, that mic sounds as good as my $500 mic.
Wow.
Yeah. So it just, you have to learn how to use the tools that you have. You don't have to spend thousands of dollars to get into it. So don't let anything get in your way. We need more diversity, minorities. And there's a lot of talent out there, Tony, a lot that's not discovered yet. So the world is in front of you. Go get a piece of it. Don't be crazy about it. Don't be a thug about it. Be a professional about it. Learn everything about whatever it is you want. Obsessed with it. They wanted to have me committed when I was 12 years old because I was that much in love with radio. They said, this boy is crazy. Back in those days, it was transistor radios, which is really a cell phone today because you can get audio, video, everything on it. We couldn't get video on those little, $9 radios. But I used to go to sleep every night with this earbud. It wasn't in stereo. It was this one earbud that went into your ear that plugged into your little radio with a 9-volt battery. And I was going through 2 or 3 batteries a week. That's how much I listened to the radio. I had my favorite DJs. I used to listen to stations in New York and Boston and Chicago. I grew up on 2 radio stations in Chicago that I just adored. WLS was a 50,000 watt station, and WCFL, another 50,000 watt. And there was a battle between those 2 stations. They were both top 40. I got an opportunity to work on a top 40 station in Norfolk. It was WNOR, which we call the WCFL in Norfolk. And WGH was the WLS in our town. We had the same jingle packages that the 2 stations had in Chicago. So that was my inspiration. That's what made me crazy. I never thought I would work in Chicago. I never worked at either one of those stations, but I worked at 2 FM stations. By the time I got to Chicago in late 79, AM was on its way down, FM was on its way up. So I got a chance to be a DJ and program 2 of the top FM stations in Chicago, WGCI and WBMX, which is now V103. And I developed a format that V103 became the first. Well, actually, WBMX became the first urban AC in America. Then they changed the format after the station was sold, and flipped it to V103, which carried that same format forward. But that was the
Wow.
first urban AC.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Amazing. Um, please talk about the things that inspire you.
Uh, the things that inspire me is something new, something cutting edge, and young people having the opportunity to fulfill their dreams. One of the things that keeps me going, keeps me, I like to think, young in the mind and being progressive and aggressive, is seeing young people with that spark and that glitter in their eye that I had when I was 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. When I see that in a young person and they convince me that this is really what they want to do, I wrap my arms around them and give them everything I've got. Whatever I know, I'm willing to give 100%. Because if I don't, then I'll go to my grave with all my experiences and didn't pass it on. My feeling or motto is pass it on. Life is like a relay race. If I'm holding the baton right now and I'm running, I'm getting close to the finish line, and there's somebody else behind me on my team, I'm going to hand them that baton, get out of the way, and encourage them to run like hell. That carries on to another generation, to another generation, to another generation, until you drop the baton, and then it's over.
Wow.
And you got to be ready to run in a different direction as needed, because if you stay on that same path, you say, hey, I want to be a radio DJ, and I only want to do FM. So you pigeonhole yourself into a box. I say don't do that. Stay ahead, think forward, look and absorb the new technologies, because it's constantly changing.
Right.
Constantly. Everybody thought satellite radio was going to blow everything away. It didn't. It's running alongside AM and FM. But what really stepped up was what we're doing right now. Right now. There are
I'm
people on
going to,
YouTube that's making millions of dollars streaming on YouTube that would
amazing.
never have the opportunity if there was no YouTube.
Very
You ever
cool.
heard of Mr. Beast?
Yes. I've heard the name mentioned several times.
Go check his YouTube channel out. This guy is crazy. He does some outlandish things on YouTube, and he's got, I forget now, I haven't checked out his but probably 50, 60 million followers. That kind of crazy stuff. He buried himself in a coffin and broadcast from inside the coffin. I think it was in there for like several days. Creative. It's kind of crazy.
What?
Yes. He would give away $1 million to someone and tell them they got to spend it all in 24 hours, and if they do, then they can get this, whatever it was. Or gave a guy 20 cars and he had to give them all away within 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever. If he did, then he would get $1 million. People
Wow.
watch that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
sensational. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. That's what makes him so popular. He does stuff that nobody else is doing.
Outside of the box.
Outside of the box. Be creative. The problem with commercial radio right now, it doesn't have creativity. That's why it's not moving. It's not blowing up. Most people that I know in the business, if they're still in radio, they're scared to death of what's going to happen next, because if they lose their job today, there aren't many opportunities for them to go to. If you fall out of grace with iHeartMedia, they own 900 radio stations in America. 900 of the biggest, best stations in America. So that means there's 900 opportunities that you don't have an opportunity to go to if they fire you. Or if you leave
Wow.
on your own accord, you probably can't go back. Back in the
Wow.
day, in any given city, you might have had 30 stations or more, and you might have had 25 different owners. Now, in any given city, you probably only have 6 or 7 owners. One owner might own 6 or 8 stations. So the opportunities just aren't there, and they don't have to pay you a lot of money because they know you have nowhere to go. What are you going to do?
Wow.
They say, well, here's a job I want you to do. I want you to be program director, music director, operations manager, and I'm gonna give you $150,000. Now, each one of those titles, a music director used to make 50 or 60. A program director in a major market would make anywhere from 75 to 125, 150,000. Operations manager would be up in that same range. Now, one guy, one lady is doing 3 jobs for one of those salaries. A radio personality nowadays has to voice track after he does his live show for 10 other stations in that company. It goes into production room, lay down his voice track, send it up to the network. They place it on 10 different radio stations. Now, Tony, you ready for this one? Artificial
Ready.
intelligence is going to eliminate that guy that's doing 10 voice tracks for 10 different stations because they can take your voice and you can do 10 or 15 or 20 different syllables or phrases. They can take that and make you say, make the artificial intelligence will say any and everything and make it sound like you, and you didn't say it.
Oh, wow. So are you
Yeah,
playing with Chat GPT?
I don't like it. No, I'm not
Why?
going to be a part of that because it eliminates jobs.
Okay.
When I go to McDonald's, I don't use the kiosk. I go to the counter and I order because I want that young person or that elderly person behind the counter to have a job tomorrow. But it's coming. They're going to eliminate all those order takers. And eventually, the guy on the fryer will be gone. They got to find a way to decrease the overhead and increase the profit. I don't want to be a part of that.
So you're saying that it's not just radio; it's everywhere. It's coming.
In every industry, yes, because those investment bankers, those guys want more money, more money, more money. Look, I like to make money too. I made a lot of money in radio. I was the only, and as far as I know, even today, I made more money than any program director probably in the world for one radio station. And even those guys that are vice president of programming for some of these major companies don't make the money that I made. But since then, they don't have to because they own all the damn stations. Where are you going to go? I've had companies after I worked in Chicago and I became radio's well, they called it $2 million, but it was more. Radio's $2 million man that was on the cover of Black Radio Exclusive and Gavin Report and all the rest. It was a great thing, but it was also bad for the future. My hope was this would be the groundwork for others like me to make a bunch of money. But what happened because of the timing of it, consolidation was happening during that time. They said, no, we're not going to have another Lee Michaels making that kind of money. In fact, when WBMX was sold, okay, that was the station that gave me that kind of money. When Barry Mayo and his company bought the station from the previous owner, Barry Mayo contacted me and said, Lee, look, man, you got this contract and, you got 2 years left on it. And would you be willing to take a salary cut? I said, Barry, why would I do that? Why would I take a salary cut to work for your company? When I've got a guaranteed contract, whether you want me there or not, the previous guy or you is going to have to, if you don't want me there at my price, you got to pay me off. You can go hire somebody else. And that's what they did. Because I was not willing to take a salary. Why should I take a salary cut? Why? And they were talking about a 50% salary cut. I said,
Wow.
no, I'm not doing that. Why would I? What boo-boo the fool would do that? Send me my money. I'll go sit on the beach. And that's basically what I did. I that was in, was that 1988. I left that company, and within a month, about 6 weeks later, I bought a yacht and I went cruising for about a year. Went on a little sabbatical, and I came back doing some consulting work for some stations. And at that point in time, I saw the end of what I knew radio was about, and it hasn't gotten any better. And that was in '88. So just think about, look at that curve, that chart, that graph. It's plateaued, flat line a little bit, and then go down again. And I don't know if it can be resuscitated.
Hmm.
And AM radio is going to be gone within the next few years. So it's going to be a dead band, be reallocated to something else. And then after that, it'll be FM. Everything is going to be digital. It's going to be either fed online or it's going to come out of the sky, satellite. I mean, it's already there.
Can you talk about some of your proteges that are maybe still in the
Wow.
radio business or maybe have transitioned out?
Some, if not most, have transitioned out. But some of the talent that I've worked with, two off the top, I think the best urban or black radio guys, Tom Joyner, Doug Banks, Marco Spoon, Mike Love. I worked two different Mike Loves, one out of St. Louis and one out of Cleveland. Veronique, Armando Rivera, and just hundreds. Earl Boston. Earl Boston is one of my pride and joy radio guys. He was working with me at WBMX in Chicago, and I want to say it was around 81, 82 maybe. I got a call from RCS, the people that have the music rotation system called Selector. And I was one of the handful of urban programmers that used the software. And I was a major contributor to the advancement of the software because, again, creativity. I had things that I wanted that software to do that it couldn't do. I contacted the two guys that owned it and wrote the software. And I said, hey, can you make this do this? I wanted to have a criteria or preferences about 9 different steps or identification of songs, from the texture of it, the tempo of it, the appeal, the beginning, the intro, the ending of the song, what kind of appeal it had. Who did it appeal to? Was this a song that was a heavy female appeal, male appeal, or both, or teens? So I got them to put all that stuff into the software. Then I had full control of the flow and the direction of the radio station. Subliminally, people didn't know, oh, wow, he went from a slow song to a medium song to a fast song. And I loved all 3 of them. Top 40 radio, I call it train wreck flotation or flow. They'll go from a slow record to a fast record, from a super 140 beat minute song to a sleeper. To me, that's a train wreck that breaks your mood too quickly. If you're driving down the street and you got, I just want to celebrate Rare Earth, and that song is jamming, right? And you come back with, neither one of us want to be the first to say No, man, don't take me from the disco to the bedroom. That's too quick. No, 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 no. That's not real life experience. And that would clear the floor in the disco or the a club. It'll
Right.
clear the floor. If you want to clear the floor, that'll do it. If you want to force people back to the bar, that'll do it. But when you're driving home from work or going to work, or you're cruising along, you don't want to you don't want to break that. It's too
Right.
rapid. It'll break your neck. you know. So I implemented those kinds of things, and subliminally people didn't know, but is that subconscious, subliminal message that you're sending out to your radio listeners, and you keep them. I had 12 and a half hours time spent listening, more than any other station in America, because I think it was because of how I was putting the music together, how I positioned my commercials, how I did my marketing and promotion. It's a number of things it all connects. It all connects. When my competition was running 18 minutes of commercials, I was doing 8 minutes. They would go into a commercial break for 7 minutes, 8 minutes. I'd go in for a minute and a half and I'm gone. I play 2 songs before they get out of the commercial break.
Oh, wow. So
So
what is the
you got to be
psychology
creative.
of that, Lee? What is the psychology? Where did you get that thought pattern to think outside of the box, to use psychology, because that's what it is, psychology and marketing,
Yeah, yeah.
to do that?
Well, out of necessity, out of listening to your competition, out of research, we do focus groups, perceptual studies, music testing, and you learn a lot about what your audience likes and dislikes about your station and your competition. One of the things that I learned was, once I find the weakness of my competition, I'm going to go all in on his soft spots. I'm going to destroy him on his weaknesses. And as a defensive boxer, I'm going to block him when he's attacking me. Okay. I'm going to stay away from his right hook because that's deadly. But I'm going to beat him so bad because he's got bad knees. I'm going to work on his knees, and eventually he's going to fall. So his strengths become weaknesses. He's a dead man walking.
Mm.
So I use those kinds of tactics, if you will, and you put your research to work. And what I saw a lot of programmers and managers do is they spend $150,000 on research and then say, they don't know what they're talking about. That's stupid. I don't believe it. When you have a focus group and you got 10 or 12 people sitting around the table, and 9 out of the 12 said they don't like your morning show job, but you do, that's your boy. So you say, the hell with them. They don't know what they're talking about. I'm sticking with them. You know what? You're going to get knocked out. Because the listeners, your demographic, males and females, 25 to 54, just said they don't like your morning show. So how are you going to argue against that? So you find a better morning show and you put it in and watch your station blow up. You will grow. If you market it properly and put the right people in there. And then, I remember when it used to be one person on the air, then 2 people, then 3 people, then now you got a choir. You got so many people on the air, it becomes, I call it a junkyard of voices. It's hard to manage, 5 or 6 people on at one time. If you have a lot of people, you've got to have each one of those people have to have good self-control and stay in their lane. If you got a
Mm.
comedian in there, let him or her do the funny stuff. If you're the main show host, you're like the conductor. You point to this one, you point to that one, and you do the basic stuff. If you got an information person, you got a traffic person, a news person, if you got news. But you've got these different people that have roles within the show. If everybody stays in their role, in their lane, you can have a good show with multiple people. But if they're out trying to one up each other, you got a comedian that does a little funny joke, and then somebody else comes on and try to one up that funny and give it another punchline. No. Now you're dragging out something that could have been 15, 20 seconds with good, strong impact and have everybody cracking their side. Now you're going to try to make another funny on top of that. Pasadena. Don't do that. Bad idea.
Thank you. Thank you, Lee, for that. Please tell us about your continued professional and personal development. What are you doing for you?
For me, eliminating stress. I've always been pretty good at it, but the older I get, I find myself being more sensitive to stressful situations. And I also have started eliminating people that bring drama. Drama queens and kings. I have to put them on
I'm sorry. I did not mean to laugh, but it's just...
No, it's laughable, but it's serious. And resting, trying to eat better. I put on a few pounds through COVID, and I want to get back out and get active again, do something more physical than I've been doing. Enjoying life and getting even more involved in my family. I've got my youngest son is turning 34 on the 1st of April. I have a daughter that's about to become 42. My oldest boy is 50 plus. So my kids are grown. I got 4 granddaughters.
Okay.
So that's kind of where my focus is on them now. And that's just I'm enjoying that. My oldest granddaughter is graduating in May. My 34-year-old son is graduating in April. So I got 2 graduations to go to from universities. So I'm excited about that. And I'm glad to see that they're following a good, positive path. The oldest granddaughter, she ran the Junior Olympics 7 or 8 years. She's in the top 5 fastest in her 800, I think it was 400, 800. And one time she even did the 1500. Her sister, who's in middle school, is running hurdles, and she's also, in the track field. So, they keep me busy and trying to follow their races and what have you. So that's kind of where I am right now. And, try to spend more time with my wife. She's had some illnesses since 2000, numerous surgeries. So, your life evolves and changes, and things that you have no control over happen. And I think it changes you as an individual. If it doesn't, then you're cold-hearted. You know what?
Yeah.
You fill in the
Absolutely.
blank.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, right now I'm trying to enjoy life. So many of my friends are not here anymore.
Yeah, I have so many more questions, but we're actually down to the last question for tonight.
Okay.
And I want to say it has been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
The last question is, you're speaking to the world. What do you want them to know?
What do I want them to know? That we are in turbulent times. We got to stop fighting each other. Forget about the left or the right, what somebody's religion is, what their sexual orientation is. We're all human beings. Let's come together and be good citizens in this world. Because if we don't, we will self-destruct.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lee Michaels. We want to say thank you to everyone who is here with us today. This is a conversation that can be seen on YouTube and my website, Conversation with Tony Mobley. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by valued audio visual professionals who meet daily in Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. Thank you, Z98.1.FM, LinkedIn Live, and YouTube, Conversations with Real People. Last week, we had a great conversation with Ms. Yolanda Barton, founder of XR. When you have time, please go back and look at the 90 plus episodes of Conversations with Tony Mobley. We're counting down to episode 100. I want to thank you. I hope you will find something that you like and something that is helpful on our broadcast. Conversation with Tony Mobley can be heard on 98.1fm.com, our audience in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the internet. Thank you, Mr. Taylor Sunderhouse, and the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for making this happen. Thank you, Mr. Lee Michaels, for our conversation today, for doing the work that you do, and for being the person that you are. Conversations with Tony Mobley will continue next week with Ms. Liberty White, Technology for Everyone. And please tune in. You don't want to miss what Ms. Liberty White will share with us. Thank you all so much. Take care. God bless and good night. See you in the streams.